Freedom, noun, the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants. It is the first day of classes, and the professor steps in. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a space where together we will build knowledge, where you can feel free to be yourselves and speak up your minds. In the file attached to your emails, you will find the ways in which you can deliver your essay, the list of suggested topics, the amount of words required, and the referencing format needed in order to give your honest, sincere, and valuable insights of the world. Please remember that every original idea you have has to be supported by some old guy who lived hundreds of years ago and by definition is smarter than you. You're free to say and to think what you like as long as it goes in accordance to the methodological principles and epistemological and ontological guidelines directed by Marx, Weber, Engels, Morgenthau, or any stray white Western dude from the last century contained in the list at the end of the syllabus. I was so relieved that I was still free enough to select the time of the day in which I could sit down on the table of my choice and start writing a diluted picture of what I originally conceived in my head. The word freedom fell for the first time word on my tongue, and it suddenly hit me. How can we have ever said that we are free? From the moment we are born, the material of our crib is a foreshadowing element of what our lifestyle will become. There are golden cribs and big houses, or cardboard boxes in Beijing's alleys. We live in a world painted with the ideals of equality, of opportunity, and right of self-determination, and the promise of the ability of choosing that what our destiny will look like. But we've forgotten that the cans that once contained that paint have a red label with black big legend that says, restrictions of income, gender, level of education, political ideology, nationality, and even Indian TOEFL scores are applied. Restrictions are always applied.
Freedom, noun. The state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. I found out that another friend of mine was nearly kidnapped yesterday while she was driving on her car. It was not even dark, at plain sight, with no more reason than because she was passing by. What is worth a piece of paper that says that all humans are free to move, or that nobody should be deprived from their liberty when her hands start shaking every time night reaches her out in the street alone? When fear is law, who thinks about how deprived you are about the promises of liberal democracies and market economies? What does it matter that our constitutions give us individual guarantees and the legal powers to exert our freedom, when individualism has ensured that the only one who cares for its own freedom is you? What does freedom mean in a country where fear is stronger than any police officer or military personnel? The promise of being free meant nothing for all of those who do not have the money to buy it. Even if they did, there is no possibility to escape from things like getting old, feeling hungry, being horny, or falling asleep. The same humanity that makes us worth of inalienable rights is the same that makes us a slave to our own limitations. We didn't choose to be alive, and paradoxically enough, all discussions of having the ultimate claim about deciding on whether we live or not end up in someone getting locked up in a mental facility. Let's get rid of the establishment, some argue. Let's bring down the system. Let's us give into anarchy, bros, and black shoes with white socks. The only thing I can think is that even though the system suicide was achieved, in a few years we would create new walls, new politically correct slang, and new expectations for freshly created conduct of restriction, and of a friendly etiquette.
Freedom, now, unrestricted use of something, like your voice. Are we in the land of the free, where your voice can actually speak what's on your mind? Or is it just free just as long as every single thought passes through a filter that states that what you think is safe for everyone to hear it? Is this the land of the free, or is it a place where even idiotic ideas like the Trump's big wall are to be censored and repressed? Let's openly discuss about the right of women's decision over their own bodies, but let's not discuss anything that might just slightly trump the word democracy, the word freedom. Because why dare to challenge the system that ensures a better life for us, a brighter future, freedom of speech, and the observance of our human rights? Unless you live, of course, in a non-democratic state. In that case, your freedom means nothing to the rest of the world, even to your own government. Has freedom become a right or just a few, or is it still a right to us all? Has it become something to be determined by the place you're born in, the type of government you live under, the ideology you follow? Have we made of freedom a restrictive space rather than what it is supposed to be? Is freedom actually tangible? If we looked up the word freedom in Google, we would find 1,000 definitions, but none of them could explain what has freedom done to ourselves. Freedom, now, not found.